Imagine being sentenced to 10 years in prison, not for violence, not for espionage, but for giving a speech. In 1918, you didn't need to commit treason to be treated like a traitor. All it took was criticizing the president or questioning America's involvement in World War I. And behind it all stood one man, President Woodrow Wilson. This is the chilling story of how a Nobel Peace Prize-winning president declared war on the First Amendment. When the United States entered World War I in April 1917, President Woodrow Wilson framed the conflict as a moral crusade to make the world safe for democracy. But as thousands of young American men were drafted and shipped overseas, a different war was erupting at home, a war on dissent. For Wilson, unity was paramount. But unity, in his view, meant silence, especially for socialists, pacifists, labor organizers, and civil liberties advocates. With Congress under pressure, Wilson signed into law the Espionage Act of 1917, granting the federal government sweeping powers to arrest and imprison anyone who was seen as obstructing the war effort. It didn't take long before the law's true purpose became clear. It wasn't just about spies, it was about speech. In June 1918, Congress escalated the crackdown with the Sedition Act, an amendment to the Espionage Act, which criminalized disloyal, profane, scurrilous, or abusive language about the U.S. government, the Constitution, the military, or the flag. One of the most infamous examples came just a month later. Eugene V. Debs, a five-time presidential candidate and leader of the Socialist Party, gave a speech in Canton, Ohio. He did not call for violence. He didn't encourage draft dodging, but he criticized the war and praised those imprisoned under the Espionage Act. He was arrested, convicted, and sentenced to 10 years in federal prison. Across the country, hundreds of Americans, journalists, editors, union members, and immigrants were arrested for speech. Publications were banned, newspapers were shut down. Even private conversations could result in federal charges if overheard by informants. In total, over 2,000 people were prosecuted and nearly 900 were convicted under these laws, a dramatic assault on civil liberties, all under the direction of a president elected on promises of peace and progressivism. By the early 1920s, the war had ended, and public opinion began to shift. The Sedition Act was repealed in 1920, but the Espionage Act remained, and still remains, U.S. law today. Wilson, however, never expressed regret. Even as he suffered a massive stroke in the final year of his presidency, he refused to pardon Eugene V. Debs. That task fell to his successor, Warren G. Harding, who commuted Debs's sentence in 1921, though Debs had already served over 2 years behind bars for speech. Today, the Wilson-era crackdown is seen by historians as one of the gravest threats to constitutional rights in American history. It sparked the birth of the American Civil Liberties Union in 1920 and ignited a century-long debate over the balance between national security and civil liberties. Can democracy survive when fear silences dissent? Is it ever justifiable to limit constitutional rights during wartime? What happens when the law becomes a tool for political repression by those elected to uphold it? The case of Wilson and the Espionage Act forces us to confront these questions not as abstract legal dilemmas, but as living tensions within the American experiment. This series exposes the moments when American presidents crossed constitutional lines, so we never forget how fragile freedom can be. If this story revealed a side of American history you've never heard before, subscribe for more untold presidential stories that shaped and sometimes shattered our constitutional values.